Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and today I bring you a review of this, the German Tier 6 heavy tank, the VK 3601H. What do you need to know about this thing? Well, it used to be a Tier 6 medium tank, but it was kind of a heavier medium tank, and they decided a few patches ago to rebalance it as a heavy tank. And so overall what you get is what is, a tank with a bit of weight. It's about 42 tons, with a good slab of hit points. 950, I think, makes it the second highest hit point pool of any non-premium Tier 6 heavy tank, behind the Churchill 7. It's got a reasonably good top speed, although the engine is not really punchy enough to get you up to that speed, so you're only really going to reach that speed going downhill. The armour is alright, although you do have to angle it to really make it work. The view range is okay, and it's got a good signal range. I would like to mention at this point just a quick discussion on the guns. So there are really two guns available for this. I'm not going to talk about any of the others, because if you have any sense, you'll have this 75mm gun from the predecessor to this tank. Well, if you go the way that I suggest you go. I'm also not going to talk about the other tanks, because frankly they're kind of garbage. There's a 75mm gun that you really don't want to be using if you don't have to. Oh no, to be fair, it's not bad. I tell a lie. Let's bring it up. Stop it. So, and there's also a howitzer. I'm not going to look at the howitzer because it's a howitzer, tier 5, 105mm howitzer. You probably don't want to use it. So here are the three guns that you've got on this machine. If you take the route that I am going to suggest, you will already have these two 75mm guns unlocked. If you do not take this route, your grind is going to be considerably more painful. And you're going to have to play this with the stock howitzer, which could be worse, but I don't recommend it. So what do you get from these guns? Well, basically they're 75mm guns. The upgrade of the tier 7 gun over the tier 6 is incremental, if I'm going to be honest. In each case you have a reasonable rate of fire, 14 odd rounds a minute, about 150 penetration, 135 average damage, 0.3 something accuracy, and a 2.3 second aiming time. The main difference between these two is that the first of the two can fire kind of rubbish high explosive rounds. The second is not able to fire high explosive. It can only fire either armor piercing or armor piercing composite rigid, and the APCR has considerably more penetration on that gun. So frankly, if you take the route that I will suggest later on, you will never use this first 75mm gun on it. There's no point. If you do, then you'll have to grind out this first 75mm gun with the stock gun, which is the howitzer, 105mm howitzer, which could be better, could be worse. On paper, but anyway, so this is a gun you're only ever going to use as an interim gun. This first 75mm gun. Okay, so let's get shot of it. So you're really comparing these two. Now on paper, I prefer this 75mm. And if you take the route I'm going to suggest, you'll already have this unlocked, and you can equip it immediately without the tracks. On paper, I prefer it. However, I actually had more fun and more success using the short 88. So what do you get between these two? The short 88mm gun has a lower rate of fire. It's still not dreadful. A lower rate of fire. Has less penetration. You're down at 132, and this is kind of, well, this can get frustrating. 132 penetration can be your downfall. 220 average damage, 0.38 accuracy, so it's not particularly accurate, or dispersion, whatever you want to call it, and the same aim time. So basically the 88mm gun has lower penetration, lower rate of fire, and is less accurate, but does more damage per shot. Incidentally, these two guns have about the same DPM. So the damage per minute of each weapon is approximately the same. So it's kind of whichever one you think you would prefer. Try them both out and see which works best for you, would be my advice. So let's have a quick talk about the grind for this thing. So if we go to the tech tree, you can see that there are two ways of getting to the VK, which sits just here, at tier 6. There was the original way of doing it, and then they opened up a new way of doing it. So originally, you went through the Panzer 35T at tier 2, which is okay, nothing special, but it's alright. The Panzer 38T at tier 3, which again is okay, it's a perfectly decent tier 3 light tank. The Panzer 38NA at tier 4, which is another light tank, and I would like to point out here that this thing gets scout matchmaking, which might put some of you off. And the Panzer 4, which is kind of meh, there's nothing amazingly special about it, but it's not bad either, it's okay. And then you can go to either of the German heavy lines through the VK3001P or the VK3601H. The other way of doing it is to come down here to the Panzer II, which at tier 2 is actually a pretty good machine. It only gets autocannons though, so if you don't like autocannons, that'll probably get on your nerves. Panzer IIIA, which is an alright tier 3 light tank, I quite enjoyed it. Up here to the DW2. I'm afraid kind of the turds in these lines are at tier 4. DW2 is the tier 4 heavy tank. It does not get scout matchmaking, obviously, it's not a scout, but it is rubbish. It really is a bad machine. It's not very good. You'll then get to the VK3001H at tier 5, which is, again is a tier 5 heavy tank, and it gets good guns. Everything else about it's kind of a bit rubbish. You can make the armour work, but the armour isn't very good, and the engine power is naff. The mobility is not very good, but it gets good guns. And then from there you can go to the VK3601H. So, pick whichever line you want. I am going to recommend you take the second option, unless you particularly want to go down this line. Maybe you really want to play the Panzer IV because it was a famous historical vehicle. Maybe you really want to grind down this line, which would eventually lead to the Maus. If you don't, if you just want to grind down the other line, I would suggest taking this route. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, you don't have to play the Panzer 38NA, which can be painful, especially if you're not used to scout matchmaking. And frankly, even if you are used to scout matchmaking, that thing's not a scout. The engine power's rubbish, but it gets scout matchmaking. It's just a kind of painful experience, if I'm honest. The DW2 is bad, but you can do okay in it. I mean, I've got my mastery badge in that thing. I did alright in it, but I really didn't like it. And also because I think these tanks prepare you better for some of the higher tier machines. So for example, the VK3001H performs in a very similar manner to the Tiger, but at tier 5, so it's a good gun, mobility isn't great, and the armour's a bit naff, but you can make it work with a lot of angling. Also, because this line unlocks more stuff for the VK. So, when you get to the VK, what's the grind like? Well, if you took option 1 and came via the Panzer IV, you'll basically have nothing unlocked. You'll get this howitzer as your stock gun, and you know, you can make it work, that's fine. But you will basically be entirely stocked. You might have some radios unlocked, you've probably got this from the Panzer IV. Yeah, you've got the top radio, but frankly, who cares? If you take that route, I would prioritise getting this 75mm gun first. That'd be my first port of call. Second, I would get the turret. Third, I would get either the engine or the tracks. Fourth, I would get the other one, either the engine or the tracks. I think you can mount most of the modules on this, possibly with the exception of the 88mm gun without the upgraded suspension. And then once you've got that, then get this 75mm gun, then unlock this 88mm gun, and then decide which one you want to use. Yes, you don't have to unlock any of these top weapons, but I would advise that you do so. It's just my advice. If you take the second option and go via the VK3001H, you will already have both of these guns unlocked. So you can equip this. You can equip this one immediately, the Tier 7 75mm conical gun, and I would highly recommend you do so. And it just makes your grind a little bit easier. Now for playstyle, the playstyle of this, and you'll see it in some of the upcoming games, the playstyle of this is kind of unlike what comes before it, and it's unlike the Tiger, to be honest. It's much more in your face, in my opinion, than either of the other two. Although it does depend what gun you use. If you use the 75mm gun, you will do better at range as a more support tank. If you use the 88mm gun, you really have to get into people's faces. So, enough of me prattling about just the tank in general for now. Let's have a look at the armour values. So, we're in Tank Inspector, and we're predominantly interested in the armour of this machine to kick things off with. Now, to start off, I'm just going to put the stock turret on. Bring up the armour zones. So, what can you see? Right, I'm going to talk about the turret first, and then the rest of the tank. So the turret. What you've got is this turret front, which is 80mm thick, with that gun mantle shoved on the front. Now this means that if you're facing the turret straight on, this is with the stock turret, and you're looking at effective armour values, depending on which bit of the turret they're pointing at, of, or around the gun it's down to about 80mm, there's a hole behind the gun mantle. Further out it jumps up to 164, but frankly this turret is not the most durable in the world. I mean, even at tier 6, this 160 odd, if you get the right spot of it, can be penetrated. So I would prioritise getting the turret where you can, because not only does the top turret give you more health, it also gives you better armour. So now our gun mantlet. Okay, around the gun you're looking at 100 odd millimeters. Alright, so don't be massively surprised if people penetrate you there. It is possible. And further out we're up to about 161. So you can still be penetrated. I mean, a Russian 122mm gun still has a half decent chance of going through your gun mantlet, but you can still get some nice bounces. The other thing worth bearing in mind with the upgraded turret is that the commander's hatch is a big old weak spot, which is a bit of a pain. I'm just going to go back to my gun of choice. I think it looks better. It's also worth pointing out, I hadn't actually noticed this before, but I should mention it, the armour values change depending upon what gun you've got equipped. So, this is why I was slightly confused when I was looking at the turret. If you have the stock gun or any one of the next of the 75mm guns with the upgraded turret, then you're looking at this kind of 164 equivalent armour on the outside and down to 100 around the middle. If you equip the 88mm gun, it adds an additional block of spaced armour. And so around here, you've got spaced armour on spaced armour. And so suddenly, around here you're at like 180, 180 odd. If someone tries to shoot you there, you're up to 197, 135. It just boosts the armour values, and it puts an extra layer of armour around the gun, which is good because generally speaking, behind the gun there's a hole. That's the whole reason for having a gun mantlet in the first place. You have to cut a hole in the turret to shove the gun in. So then you want a block of armour around the gun so they just can't shoot your crew to bits. So I hadn't actually noticed this before, but this is another reason for me recommending the short 88mm gun. Your turret becomes bouncier if you equip it. Bonzo. Okay, so that's the turret. Sides of the turret, well, they're like 80 odd millimeters, garbage. Rear, garbage, no one cares. Front of your tank. 100 millimeters. 100 millimeters, 122. So the front arm plates are about 100 mil thick. This section is thinner, it's only 60, but it slopes back at a heavy angle, meaning that it's about 100, just over 100 mil thick. This thing here, this machine gunner's port, is not a weak spot. And on the other side, you've got this driver's hatch. Well, no, frankly, this isn't a weak spot either. Lower plate. The very lower plate, it's much thinner, but it's at such an extreme angle, it's basically an auto bounce. So this section that's really the lower plate is actually thicker, 140 odd millimeters thick, effectively. But I would still recommend, if you've got a gun with at least about 145, 150 mil penetration, I would still recommend shooting at this. Why? Because the transmission is directly behind this, and so if you can put a shot through that lower plate, you can set them on fire. And watching one of these things burn is amusing. which will lead me on to equipment and crew skills. What's the side armour of this tank like? It's 60. You can side scrape if you're careful, but the side isn't, you know, massively thick. Just be a little bit careful of that. And, you know, artillery, if it hits you on the engine deck, you're screwed. So, that's enough of the armour. I'll just go and quickly talk about crew skills and equipment before we head into a game. Okay, so just very quickly to talk about equipment and crew skills. So firstly with crew skills. It's a heavy tank, repairs is never a bad option. God bless repairs. I also would recommend safe stowage on pretty much any tank you come across. And whether you decide to go for repairs and then retrain to safe stowage, because safe stowage is a perk and repairs is a skill, is entirely up to you. But frankly, I couldn't be bothered, because I'm not going to retrain for gold, and if you retrain for credits, you lose some XP in the process. Is there anything else your loader should have? Well, eventually, when you can, equipping brothers in arms won't be a bad idea, and the others are kind of meh. Safe stowage, repairs, bonza. Radio operator. Sorry, let's actually go to the skills. I would say just go for repairs to kick things off. Situational awareness isn't a bad idea eventually, and neither is brothers in arms, but to start with, repairs is your friend. Driver. This tank has a frontal transmission, as a lot of German tanks do, and so I would like to say repairs, but let's be honest, I've got preventative maintenance, it's your friend. You want to reduce the chances that you will catch fire. If you catch fire, why am I not suggesting take firefighting? Because on this tank, I'll get to this in a second, you should have a manual fire extinguisher, or an automatic one. You should have a fire extinguisher. If you get set on fire twice, you're very unlucky. And firefighting just increases the speed with which your crew put out the fire. If you've been set on fire twice, you're probably screwed anyway. I don't think firefighting is ever worth taking, personally, so I wouldn't bother. So I would take preventative maintenance to start off with, and then repairs or brothers in arms as you see fit. Are there any others that are worth it? Well, yeah, I mean, the driver gets some pretty damn good skills, actually. Clutch braking isn't a bad idea. It's a heavy tank. You know, its mobility isn't great. That would just help you keep up with people. Smooth ride to help with firing on the move. Again, not a terrible idea, although I would prioritise the others. Off-road driving, not a dreadful idea, but it's slow and sluggish anyway. It wouldn't be my first choice. Controlled impact. If you're going to do any ramming, not a bad idea. With a speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour, if you are at the top of a hill and your enemy is at the bottom of the hill, ramming is a perfectly valid option, but I would prioritise preventative maintenance, brothers in arms, and repairs, be my opinion. The gunner. Again, the gunner gets some pretty decent skills. Snapshot, yeah, not a bad idea. Increase the accuracy during turret rotation. Deadeye, nice, but not a priority. Armourer, I haven't noticed the gun getting knocked out a huge amount, so I don't think that's really necessary. Designated target, nah. So, again, I would say repairs and brothers in arms. Preferably repairs first. And your commander, well, the commander gets a lot of good skills. Mentor, I used to like this, I don't anymore, I just don't think it's worth it. The extra XP you get just doesn't seem to do a great deal of much. Recon to increase the view range, yeah, not a bad idea, but I wouldn't prioritise it. Jack of all trades allows your commander to replace knocked out crew members, and it diminishes the impact that the crew member's loss has. I haven't noticed particular crew loss being a problem on this tank, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Eagle Eye, identifying critically damaged modules, not a terrible idea, but I wouldn't make it a priority. Brothers in arms, eventually, good idea. Repairs, yes, would be a good idea. Sixth Sense should be pretty much the first thing you take on almost every tank, or you know, maybe you want to take repairs and then retrain to Sixth Sense or whatever. Sixth Sense is awesome. I haven't got it 100% on this tank yet, so it's not doing anything yet. I would highly recommend it. So that's the crew. And for equipment, well, I've got the standard first aid kit, repair kit, and fire extinguisher. I would like to emphasise the fire extinguisher on this tank. And for the permanent equipment, if you will, rather than the consumables, well, there's a variety of decent options. You know, some are more or less obvious than others. I mean, camo net, nah, wouldn't bother. Wet ammo rack, I haven't noticed ammo rack damage being a particular problem, so I wouldn't bother. Medium caliber tank gun rammer, good choice. Binos, in my opinion, if you're going to use one of the 75mm guns, take binos by all means, but it's not how I played it, and that's not how I would recommend you play it, so I wouldn't. Coated optics, maybe. You've got a half decent view range to start with. Buffing it by an extra 10% isn't a bad idea. Enhanced gun laying drive, yeah, your aim time is okay, but not fantastic. You could take an enhanced gun laying drive. Filling the tanks with CO2, which increases your fuel tank durability. This is a possibility, although while I've noticed this tank catches fire, I haven't particularly noticed a problem with the fuel tanks getting damaged. Heavy spore liner, yeah, you could if you find you get artilleried a lot, or if you ram people a lot, take it, but you know, I wouldn't generally recommend it. Toolbox isn't a terrible idea, and vents is all round a decent bit of equipment. If I were going to choose 3 pieces of kit for this, I would probably go with a rammer, and depending on your preference, either rammer, vents, and gun laying drive, or rammer, vents, well, rammer, vents, gun laying drive, and toolbox. I would pick a combination of those. If you want to use it more long range, fine, go for some better long range equipment, increase the view range or whatever, but it wouldn't be what I would actually recommend. Right, enough of me prattling on, let's get on with some games. So here's game number 1, with Top Tier. It's an assault game on Karelia. Now, top tier heavy tank with reasonable armour, and in this case, a nice big fat hit point pool. You don't really want to be too cautious, because you shouldn't be. I mean, your team is relying upon you to push, to take hits, to deal out damage, to generally be a bit of a battering ram. And so we're going to do just that. Forwards, you dogs! Oh dear. So anyway, yeah, we're pushing forward. And you can see that the VK isn't exactly the fastest machine in the world. It's not the slowest. I appear to be going faster than this Valentine. I rolled crawl to charge. But, I mean, that KV-1S easily is faster than me. Yeah. KV-1S shoots back at us. I'm just telling him to be a bit careful. You know, those shots are 1,000 credits a pop. Why would you just waste them like that? KV-1S doesn't carry that many of them either. Fair enough. His credits. As long as he doesn't hit anyone else, I don't really care. Well, we're going to go up here and see what we can do. Now there's a medium over there. Only 2 credits. Can't remember what. We've lost a Crusader already, which is kind of irritating. And we nail their T28. But we haven't really found any action ourselves yet. That sounds a bit dodgy, but never mind. You know what I mean. This KV-1S is going forward. There's no fear. He is a real man. It's fair enough. And I'm trundling up behind him. Which is a shame, because I've probably got better armour than he has, but never mind. There's the A43. And I can't get a shot on him, but we're 1-3 down, which is kind of irritating. And, ooh, hello. Hello. Can we get a shot in on that? Yes, we can. A shot in on that Cromwell, and we take a hit, but, you know, we bounce it, because, yeah, top tier heavy tank. Can we get another shot on... Sorry, Freudian slip there. Another shot in on that Cromwell. Apologies for that. A43 is still alive. These guys still haven't killed him. Oh, come on, guys. I'm getting fed up. 7 minutes of the game left. 7 minutes 20. There we go. KV-1 takes out the A43. We lose a KV-1 in return. Oh, well. And I'm just going to push up here. Now, this isn't necessarily a particularly well horse-powered machine, but going downhill it can hit a decent speed. So as you can see, I hit about 50, 55, something like that, kph, just then. And I'm carefully trundling up here, and I'm taking shots, but they're bouncing. So angling my armour, which is always useful, or generally useful, especially when driving German machines, because it doesn't tend to come pre-angled. So I'm angling my armour, and I'm trying to get a shot on these guys. Oh, I take a shot there. Yeah, fair enough. And I'm just lighting them up and letting other people do the shooting, frankly. So I'm going to go around here and try and do a similar thing. Anyone around? Hello? Anyone at home? Ooh. Hello, Mystic. T-3485. You're dead. He tracked me. Oh no, whatever shall I do? There's a Panzer. Panzer 4. He does not appear to be using the howitzer, and now he's dead anyway, so who cares? And we're winning 8-6. And, oh, you cheeky little Cromwell. You got behind me. Oh well, now you're dead. SU-85B, shot misses. SU-85, we're ammo racked. Repair that. And put a shot straight through his driver's hatch. And he's dead. SU-85B bounces. I'm going to probably ignore him for now. Hello, Mr. T-40, you're dead. Back to the SU-85B, who bounces again. Ooh, KV-1 hits me in the side there. What a little sod. Oh, SU-85B is now down. KV-1 is down. That just leaves the T-34. We are not too scared of a T-34, certainly not from the front. So we trundle forwards. Panzer IV is very enthusiastic about German machines. Good man. And boom, we put one shot into the T-34. And there's a second, and we kill him. Can you guess what medal we got from that game? That's right, Steel Wall. And 4 kills. We didn't actually do vast, overwhelming amounts of damage, but we did some damage. We got 4 kills, we got some spotting damage, and we picked up Steel Wall, as I say, so a pretty decent game. On to game number 2. So here's game number 2, and a very different kettle of fish. It is a tier 8 game, we are bottom tier, and that's bad for the VK. The VK isn't really fast enough to do much flanking, and the gun is not the best gun in the world. I mean, I prefer this short 88mm, but it's only got 132 odd penetration, which can really struggle, especially shooting tier 8s. However, worth pointing out, there's only one tier 8 per side. A bunch of tier 7s. Well, a few tier 7s. It's mainly tier 6s. Someone on the enemy team says 35% I'll need it when I said good luck. I assume he means there's a 35% chance for them to win. If so, that's nice. So I was going to trundle down the 8-9 line. The problem with doing that when bottom tier is that there's a very good chance you're going to encounter their higher tier heavies, and this gun is going to have an interesting time, let's leave it at that, penetrating their higher tier heavies. So instead we go to the other flank where there's a little bit more opportunity for shooting people in the sides, which is what I kind of need. I can't be with this shooting people in the front malarkey because I'm just not going to do very well. And I could switch to APCR, but that's A, expensive, and B, it bumps the penetration up to 170 something, which is alright, but it might still have problems. I mean, I'm still going to have to choose my shots carefully. I don't know why there's a cluster of heavy tanks still at our base. Hopefully they'll get the hint and move. We've lost a VK already. Ugh, dear. And this isn't filling me full of joy. So we keep trundling over here. I mean, I'm not going to go anywhere on my own in this sort of game. I want friends with me. Preferably big scary friends. Although then you might make yourself the obvious target, I don't know. Anyway. We have a look to see if anyone's down here, seeing as the other 3 guys who are in this vicinity have all taken the high road, so I'm going to try and spot things along the low road, and when I think it's sensible to, I'm going to move up and try and attack. So we've just spotted out their AMX M445, which is a dangerous tank, but armour is not its strong point, so I can do some damage to it. And I decide, you know what, screw this, I'm going to move up and, oh hello, there's a KV-1S, and he doesn't appear to have the big gun. In fact, he appears to have the rubbish little 85mm. Why would anyone use that thing? I honestly have no idea. Ooh, M6. And there's a shot through the front of him, and that was a really low damage roll. This gun does 220 average damage, and I just rolled for 177. Oh well. Let's not whinge too much about it. So, let's see if I can try and get a shot in on this. It's not even stock. That gun is an upgrade. It's just a rubbish one. Although he puts a shot through me, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. Oh well. And there's the M6. And boom, we put a shot, much more meaty, 247, into the M6. So I'm effectively currently facing off against an M6 and a KV-1S, and oh Christ, a KV-1S is doing damage. I'm surprised. Or is that the howitzer he's using? I thought it was the 85mm, but I might be wrong. Either way, he is doing damage. I should pay this guy a bit of respect. Now, in fact, it might be the second of the KV-1s, I don't know. But a bounce on him. He's using the howitzer. Yeah, that explains the damage output. Oh, side of the turret. Yes, please. Another low damage roll for 191. And the guys who took the high road have won their fight, and they blat this M6 in the rear.
Database updated.
And I miss the KV-1S. So we're just going to keep trundling up here, and we're winning 9-3. I mean, this game's gone really well. And I've done a bit of damage here and there, mainly to tier 6s. But you know, it's okay, I'm not dead. And it's a tier 8 game, and I've done okay. So, I'm, you know, not unhappy with this. Oh, we're going to keep going. Now, in a way, it's quite fortunate that their top tier tanks are Carnarvon. Because I can hurt a Carnarvon. Especially if I pick my shots with care. And hello, and that's his side. Oh yes, please, we will have this shot. I have 204. Low damage roll again, but never mind. Someone tracks him. 233. Now this is juicy. You know, all this XP on a top tier, and we set him on fire. And he burns to death. Now that was awesome. Good chunk of XP on that Carnarvon there. And that just leaves this IS. Can we ninja the kill on him? No, we can't. So we were bottom tier. We ended up doing something like 1800 damage or something in the end. A chunk of it on that Carnarvon, which was not bad, especially for bottom tier. And especially in a tank that doesn't like being bottom tier, so you can still make it work. Anyway, that was game number 2. So you've just seen some games. Overall, what do we think about this machine? Well, I had fun driving it. It's a reasonably solid machine, but I don't think it's going to set your world on fire, if I'm honest. In my opinion, it is inferior to the ARL 44, It's is it better than the Churchill? It probably is, but you know, they both have their problems. It's definitely inferior to the KV-1S. I do prefer it to the M6, although the M6 gets the better gun. Yeah, it's a reasonably decent machine. It's got a good hit point pool, which is one of your stronger features. The armour's alright, the gun selection's okay, but I really don't think this tank is going to set your world on fire. Is it a bad tank? No. Is it a good tank? It's alright. I'm not going to keep it. Eventually I will buy a Tiger, take this crew and shove it in the Tiger. But I haven't done that yet. Anyway, they're just my thoughts. By all means, go and try this machine yourself. If you're going down the German heavy tank lines, especially if you're going down for the Tiger, King Tiger, E75, E100 line, you'll have to go through this, but you don't have to, but I would recommend it. It's not a bad machine and it's good fun. Anyway, I hope you guys found that vaguely helpful, maybe even enjoyed some of it. If you did, feel free to catch some of my other videos or subscribe to my channel or whatever. Either way, I wish you happy hunting on the battlefield. Ciao ciao.